That is way too long. The most degenerate YouTube animators?
Before starting today's video, thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring it. More about that later. Also, I got very sick when filming this, so I guess deal with it. So animation on YouTube has come a long way since its start around 2008, but a lot of creators present on platforms like Newgrounds, which was one of the primary hubs for animated content at the time, and still kind of is. I just remember playing games on it as a kid, like Age of War and The Last Stand, which apparently became its own game. But a lot of creators started uploading their content from Newgrounds to the new and upcoming YouTube, which as of 2007 had just introduced its partner program, so you could earn money from your videos. But in the early days, this led to animation
2007
like
really was the year.
and Nyan Cat, both of which were abused more than any black tar heroin of those days because you could not escape them. Then in the early to mid 2010s, YouTube animation got another big boost with things like storytime animations, which led to the rise of creators like Domix, SwoozyTube, Jade Animations, and Odd Ones Out, which since then has inspired the next wave of creators doing similar content. Animation on YouTube has come a long way since it first started, but what hasn't changed is the fact I am so grateful I am not an animator. Having to sit there for hours on end with keyframes and drawing the same thing 24 times over, slightly changed just for a single second of animation,
I mean, yeah, it is. Shockingly enough, you'd think it's like not that bad of a work ordeal, but man, when you get to animating it, no wonder people start cutting corners. Like with the whole ordeal with the, what was it? One Punch Man's like Garu pretty much sliding on grass. Everyone pretty much dunks on it, but it's like in comparison to everything else they had to animate, it's like I'll cut him some slack. Plus it's a funny meme, all things considered. It is shockingly very time consuming and grueling work when you have to animate, especially as masterfully as you have to. So yeah, it kind of tends to be a problem.
For your software to inevitably fail and you have to start all over again, yeah, you can.
That is why you learn the most sacred rule: Control S. When in doubt, save every 10 to 15 minutes. At least when it crashes on you, you can go back to the place you saved last time. The golden rule when animating and drawing in general.
Take the cock and ball torture in open winter air elsewhere, thank you very much. I'm not built for that. However, with the rise of animation on YouTube and its many gifts like giving us Zach Hadel, it was still unfortunately not immune from its fair share of infamous creators. And don't get me wrong, it's doing better than other similar communities, especially the art commentary community.
No, I will say that, embarrassingly, Jaden Animations is kind of my YouTube crush. Of course, she's way out of my league, and I'm not talking about the real her, I'm talking about her cartoon character.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, forced you to say that, so why did you tell us? But despite the YouTube animator community being like its talent, range of personalities, engaging stories, and just overall positive reputation, at the same time there are some creators that seemingly have the opposite effect. So today I thought we'd look at some of said creators and what they did to deserve their reputation as the more infamous side of YouTube animation. Starting with one that may be viewed as a more gentle kneecapping compared to the others.
Earlier shows I mentioned, we don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
So one of the entries many would add to this list is Nutshell Animations. You have probably come across their content in one form or another, especially if you are on YouTube Shorts or TikTok, which is another reason to download Instagram Reels. But Nutshell started uploading in 2018 with a lot of his first animations actually using his own personality and voice.
Hi, what can I get you? Hi, yeah, can I get number
so
2,
drastically
3
different.
5s, a number 8, and a number 69?
His start was very similar to the starting point of many other big animation channels, but before that, let's talk about today's sponsor, War Thunder, something you've heard a lot about on this channel. Since actually trying it, my 10 hours have turned into over 100. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game on the internet
I can't speed it up.
And it's completely free to play on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and now even mobile. You can take command of over 2,000...
There we go. I mean, granted, he's gonna put a code near the end, so I'm gonna put that there, but till then, silence. Some enjoyable silence. Granted, he's promoting his game, but still. I mean, he probably gets benefits from it too, but Don't care, didn't ask. If I could fast forward at twice speed, I'd be glad, but for some reason I can't. For some reason.
Tanks, aim for the army near the tracks. And if you're on the go...
Still promoting.
So play War Thunder now for free and join a community of more than 95 million players by using my links in the description and pinned comment. New and returning players who haven't played in 6 months will get a massive bonus pack for PC and consoles. There are multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium. But it's only available for a limited time, so there's no better time than now to jump in. Once again, thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Anyway, back to Nutshell and his earlier animations. Their art style was constantly developing and changing with each video, topics varied dramatically, and usually their earlier content makes them seem like a completely different channel when you compare it to their later content. But Nutshell would deviate
so different in terms of art
other
styles.
Animation channels. Whilst yes, if he kept making the story time and more personal videos, it may have potentially panned out in the future like other animation channels. But he didn't do that. Instead, he found a type of content that was a lot less personal but a lot more profitable in terms of channel growth. And that was animated meme content, taking the audio of a popular meme of the time and animating it most times with his own interpretation of it.
Helicopter, helicopter.
Eventually, he would build up a library of said short videos, and most were getting a decent amount of views. But YouTube wasn't the only platform he was performing well on, as in 2020, TikTok was reaching new heights in popularity and he had started uploading his content there as well, which to say the least was one of his best decisions.
Damn, so many millions of views. But again, that makes sense. Short form content is pretty much like easily consumable and, you know, viewable.
So a lot of his videos racked up millions of views, and some even went viral, whilst also directing a small amount of people back to his YouTube channel where they could see content like behind the scenes of some of the animations, and in general some of his longer form content. However, in 2021, with the launch of YouTube Shorts, he would evidently start using that as a vehicle to push his channel further, and his YouTube channel began to mirror his TikTok. He put a lot more effort into short form content than anything else, which was an obvious decision since this was the content that got him the most attention.
Shockingly enough, barely some of them have millions of views. Like, for example, these two on top, definitely millions, but then you have like a few thousand at best. What an interesting drop-off.
And with this, he would reach 1 million subscribers shortly after in 2022. At this time, both his art style and signature characters were easily recognizable, and he would start to be noticed outside of the platforms he regularly posted on. Even at this point, he did face some criticism, like how in some videos he would not credit those behind the original audio or idea, and some viewed his content as subjectively cringe or somewhat over-sexualized for the audience he had at the time. But said criticism was outweighed by the success he was seeing from his short form content, and the fact that the audience that regularly viewed his content didn't really seem to care. By September of 2024, he had now reached 9 million subscribers, and still he would continue to grow from there.
Damn.
The current day sitting at over 10 million subscribers.
Sheesh.
So you're probably wondering, how can this guy, apart from the critiques I already mentioned, be hated and considered one of the more infamous YouTube animators? Well, I'm getting to it. Calm down, you ADHD-riddled fuck. Well, in January of 2025, the commentary YouTuber Bedo999 would make a video where multiple animators had contacted him to share their experience with Nutshell, because Nutshell wasn't doing these almost daily animations by himself. As a matter of fact, it was alleged at this point he wasn't doing much of the animation at all. But you wouldn't know that because he wasn't actively crediting the people behind these videos. And in the video they go on to explain how Nutshell had an army of animators, apparently up to 20, with more often than not most being offered $50 per animated video, despite Nutshell making significantly more per video.
Yeah, that is kind of scummy. Like, technically speaking, they should be offered way more, because if it earns more, they should get more. Basic maths.
Of said
Quick
animators
maths.
apparently spent 8 hours per video and the quality showed, but after only getting paid $50 and sometimes only getting paid after doing 2 videos for him, and there was known issues with how long it would take for him to pay said animators, but with how many hours this animator specifically was putting in, this meant they were getting paid around $6 per hour, which is well below poverty levels. That is straight up sewer levels.
That is straight up trying to afford bread in an apocalypse levels. Like, what in tarnation? What the hell?
And another animator reached out and it only took them an hour and 30 minutes to make their animations for him with significantly less quality compared to the other animator, and despite doing less work they both got paid the same, even when the one that put more effort in got more views. Now I know animators are notoriously underpaid and you can question the morals of Nutshell doing this, especially only paying $50 per animation, even though they technically carry his channel and most definitely should be paid more, but
Mainly
these
his
animators
TikTok.
agreed to do this work with these conditions. From the video,
Oh?
they were told the price beforehand. From what was seen, they were not promised that they were going to be given credit for their work. He even before forbid one of the animators from just commenting on the video saying they drew it because his agency didn't like it and the channel isn't supposed to have a face or any identity to it. So yes, he is underpaying them and that sucks, but as adults, they are agreeing to be underpaid. No matter how many hours they put towards the content with once again no credit, they still agreed to do it and produce the animations.
Yeah, this is pretty much the, what was it, silver bullet of the whole argument. Because if they genuinely agreed to this, even if they were informed, or even worse, if they had a legally binding document that they signed, technically speaking, word of mouth does kind of bind them to this agreement, but still. Yeah, this is why you pay attention, take notes, and go out of your way to decide in the end. But worst of all is that even though they could definitely leave, chances are they won't be getting better deals, unfortunately. Nowadays, animation and art in general for people like me is rough.
They could negotiate for more pay or to actually be credited, but admittedly with my own speculation he might have just dropped them and gone for somebody that would take the 50 buckaroos and not take credit. But in my opinion, these animators are adults. They weren't forced to do these animations, they could have refused, but they still did the work and accepted the payment they were offered. And from my understanding, it's not like they were contracts or they were employees of him, it was mostly like commission work. But the key word there was as adults. As further in the video and in their follow-up, it's discussed that allegedly Nutshell commissions a number of animators that were underage, which is quite a step up from just fucking over adults to make a profit, which still looks bad, but they are adults. But if those that are being reached out to are underage and are probably less aware and don't know any better compared to the adults, yeah, it starts to look a lot worse. It starts to look a lot like child labor. On top of
pretty much super scamming in a sense.
Of him apparently telling them they can do work whenever they want, but then apparently gets frustrated and lectures them when they don't do the work he told them they can do whenever. Yeah, it doesn't look good and is very morally wrong, but he would later respond to the video and the claims against him, basically saying what he was doing wasn't illegal and he was correct, but morally wrong and possibly taking advantage of people who don't know any better. Yeah, but he eventually took down his response video, and in future videos he did start crediting the creators that animated the videos. It's unsure if he did start paying these people well after this situation, and it didn't have any long-term effects on his channel. It still does pretty well to this day, but I will say his reputation has been significantly affected and is still somewhat negative to this day since it happened.
The stamp of failure has been approved on him.
Behind this failure?
So James Bear was a YouTuber that started uploading in 2014, and in his earlier content you could see he was clearly inspired by the late Ed's World's YouTube series, even attempting to make his own version of it called Jam World, which continued all the way to 2018, but you probably won't recognise some of his earlier work. You would more recognise his animations for specifically this character, Claire. And videos like After November, a reference to what happens after No Nut November. Nothing happens, by the way. It's not like the Shangri-La Easter egg you're seeing doesn't get pack-a-punch or something. But James started to gain more traction around 2019, especially on videos involving Claire, in which he would soon reach 100,000 subscribers in December of the same year. And his channel would continue to grow from there, reaching 300,000 subscribers in September of 2021. Now I could say James was a very promising animator and he potentially could have become an even bigger animator in the future. But one, it was too early to tell. And two, in the following year of 2022, James Bear's YouTube career would come to a crashing halt, all down to his own deplorable actions. Just to warn you, from this point on, the things discussed get quite disturbing and graphic, so viewer discretion is advised going forward. Don't say I didn't warn you, this is...
Gonna pause for a bit so you can all make your decision. When in doubt, mute, unmute. I'll actually, what was it? I'll put out something when we're done with these. I guess, technically speaking, from here to the end of the video is pretty much your viewer discretion advisement. So, continue with me at your own, leisure, I guess? Well, let's dive in this mess.
This is about to get very, very bad very, very fast. So in 2022, a post would be made on Twitter by someone called Lalo Does Art about the very disgusting things James had done. But James at that point had been exposed for these same things multiple times, and multiple people had known about them beforehand. Because James was apparently very open about this, especially in conversation. But the first document about this was posted in 2017. But
wow,
the document was basically unreadable, and the guy that posted it had his own motive, which was to get James to break up with Claire, an actual person, and was James's girlfriend. And the person that made the document wanted them to break up because this guy was an ex-boyfriend of Claire, and Claire had broken up with the person that wrote the document and then started dating James. So
what the hell? Who the hell goes out of their way to create a doc just to force someone to break a relationship? What the hell was going through his head?
Basically, his motive was revenge, not bringing to light the things James had done. And that is later supported because he would blackmail James, saying if he didn't break up with Claire, he would keep the document up, and they would strike some sort of deal, leading to the document poster publicly admitting the document was false and fabricated. Now it's...
What? But this isn't for James, it's just for some other... nice bot. This is just someone else messing with his life. How is the animator responsible
probably
for
because
this?
of things like this. Before 2022, the claims against James went unnoticed. That and because every time James responded or even admitted to the things he did, he would delete the response or private his account. And each time his responses were either lost to time, not well documented, or fell on deaf ears. But in 2022, the user Lola Does Art made a post on Twitter with an entire archive of all the documents, James's previous responses, and finally the story had reached a wider audience, and evidently James's audience. Now I've prolonged this long enough, but what did James do? Well, to be blunt, as far back as 2013, when James had just become a teenager, he had a sexual relationship with his sister, who was 4 years younger than him. He would discuss this with multiple people. In screenshots, he blames most of it on depression, his health, and his dad emotionally abusing him, which didn't excuse him from anything. He would say this happened multiple times, all the way to 2016, and even an excuse that was all consensual, which doesn't help anything considering her age. She was the victim. But quickly after this surfaced, he rightfully lost his platform. He tried explaining himself multiple times with different excuses, but it didn't work. And in 2024, he would make his 8th and last response before going silent on all platforms.
I have no words. What in tarnation did I just hear? Who the hell? My God. Man, yeah, thank God for that viewer discretion, because Jesus. He fucked up. That's not fucked up, that's straight up deranged. Who the hell goes out of their way to do that with their sister of all things? What is this, Alabama? And even then, what the hell? Death a bit extreme, because that's pretty much the easy way out for him. Fuck, man, that's... Ay, ay, ay. Near the end, halfway, but man, that's an interesting way to continue on afterwards.
Around that time, someone claiming to be his sister would come out with their own document, claiming James didn't stop what he was doing in 2016 and continued to SA her, with his last attempt being in 2020, and more about the things James had done in disturbing detail, and even that she had told her mother at one point and she did nothing. And the proof that she was the sister was a picture of his setup, and she asked if people...
Okay, the parents is even more fucked. One thing is her brother, but you're telling me after telling your mom she doesn't even go out of your way to fucking jail her son? What the... Move on, please, move on.
People could donate so she could escape her current living situation, but she would then take down the document due to her family apparently disagreeing with this choice, and apparently she did all of this because she was upset. And in James's response video, she would apparently be present, corroborating the story that none of this ever happened. The thing he admitted to in DMs multiple times, even made public posts admitting to it when confronted, never happened.
This is Alicia speaking, or in other words...
This just feels like she was forced to pretty much cover up for his mess. Something definitely was happening behind the scenes. This is beyond disgusting behavior from both the brother and the parents. What the hell? I'd say run away, but at this point, running away pretty much makes things worse, if not terrifying in some cases. Yikes. Like, genuinely, yikes.
This is his sister speaking, and what my brother James is saying is true. First, I would like to give my deepest apology to everyone for spreading misinformation about my brother and about my own family. Truth be told that I only...
Weirdly enough, the dad isn't mentioned, so... I don't know, but... well, guilty until proven innocent, I suppose.
I came forward because I was only upset and my reasons for being upset were petty and I had a falling out with a friend. Back in 2022...
That sounds so fake, like falling out with a friend, to basically describe the fact that you were trying to expose your brother for the disgusting bastard that he is. Sounds sus. Not just sus, it sounds straight up fabricated. Honestly, it also sounds like she's almost AI in a sense. God, man. Like, it's so disingenuous. No covering of the whole ordeal or nothing. And it's 9 minutes. Like, shitty as those, like, what was it, YouTube apologies stuff are, they at the very least go out of their way to explain things and, you know, try to their best to take accountability for their actions. This just sounds like trying to get away from the allegations as discreetly as possible. Scummy.
And James was making his last big response on the whole situation. I was actually going to help clear his name back
Barely
then,
5 minutes.
but he insisted that he would do all of this on his own since he didn't want me or any more of his family members to be involved.
She can get the cops on him? I highly doubt that's possible. As much as it's, like, easy to go there and pretty much anything else, this will pretty much result in an investigation, additional discussions, research and everything, and chances are it just might take not only way more time, but also payment and requirements, so not exactly as straightforward as you might think it is. Granted, yeah, that is a good way of thinking, it's just... it might not result in anything. At best, it might result in her pretty much being put in an orphanage or something like that, or at worst, it just might do nothing and she might be back in the exact same situation. I mean, Taser is pretty much an impossibility. As for the kicking in balls, I don't know, man. We're talking about, like, the victim mentality at this point, and it's not as easy to put yourself in those shoes. You might think it's like, oh, I'll just do this and everything else, but it's a different story when you're in that situation. The mentality is so vastly different that in some cases, like, people just give up and let them do what they want. It's not as easy as you might think.
after the drama and especially the doxing situation. He basically took the blame for
Doxing
nothing.
situation. Oh, yeah,
Even
the
after
document.
all this time, it was never easy for him to admit that nothing happened between us, when truly he was innocent for the most part. Lastly,
Innocent for
I
the
want
most
people to
part.
know that my family is not silencing me in any way. I overreacted when the police got involved for the second time.
Obviously,
Oh,
after
the
this,
second
people
time,
thought
okay,
this
so
wasn't
something
her
did
or
happen.
James or the family forced her to do this due to things like previous doxing attempts and police being called to their house, but there would never be
Yeah,
any answers if that was the case because, as said, James has been...
Again, the whole reason for why they churned out those answers was to pretty much dodge the issues. Pretty much not taking any accountability and going out of their way to basically pull the rug underneath everyone. God, man. Hope she's okay.
silent since. But still to this day, James Bear is a name many regard with infamy. So this person on the list wasn't well known within the animation community initially, but when this situation concluded, they wouldn't be known to just the internet, but much wider, primarily due to the things they did.
Oh,
this person
boy.
is Cristalli, and they were a part of the animation meme community. Not like some of the content the previous people I talked about dabbled in, but a specific flavor of the animation community where it's basically like an AMV. It's not really supposed to be funny like you would think a meme would be, but it's supposed to be satisfying.
Wait, what? He's in jail? Is he actually in jail? That's a very important question, though. Genuinely asking. I hope so. Don't give me hopes like that, man. I'm not gonna Google that right now. We don't have the time for it.
To watch with the catchy music and potentially goofy animations. This type of animation has always had a home on YouTube and still to this day is quite popular, mainly in communities like Gacha Life, although in the aftermath of this situation and what they were exposed for, a lot of their content would be removed from the internet, but has been archived on re-upload channels.
It's weird how re-upload channels of all things can keep AMVs, but the original content creators just have to erase them because... I don't know, copyright, I guess, or something like that. AMVs used to be, like, pretty popular even back then, so it's kind of weird to know that, like, they'd be taken down.
It said they started making this content around 2017, and what was known about them around this time from what they told their audience is that she was a teenager from Guatemala who, apart from her native language, was also pretty fluent in English as seen through her regular interactions with her community through videos responding to comments.
I thought to say hi like this. So here we go. Thanks to Delphi, to Chicken the Nugget.
Now, despite starting in 2017, her channel grew pretty fast, gaining 1,000 subscribers in the first few months, and nearing the end of the following year, almost 80,000 subscribers, and at their peak, 100,000 subscribers in 2019. However, such a fast rise was not without its fair share of controversies. The usual age for the audience of this type of content is fairly young, apparently 13 to 24, but in my opinion,
for AMVs? I mean, yeah, most people would pretty much be listening to the music as opposed to the animation. I guess the animation would be a flavor adding to the thing.
It's more towards the lower ages of that range, but they would start to receive some criticism for some of their uploads which you could say were sexually charged, on top of the fact they had a Patreon that was straight up serving NSFW art for a price, and with some of said art being of other YouTubers in the same niche as them, which...
To be fair, this is pretty much at this point a common practice. I can't even, like, blame them for it. If it earns them money, fuck it, like, do whatever you want, just don't go full-on degeneracy on me.
Which not only is extremely weird to have on a YouTube channel that kids mainly visit, but making weirder NSFW art of other creators' characters that said kids can access for your own monetary gain is fucking terrible. Also,
wait, they can access it? Well, technically speaking, yeah, Patreon doesn't have the whole ordeal with the... what was it? Restricting access to things, and then, yeah, I guess that would be making sense. But on the other hand, not every kid would be watching. No, I'm just trying to justify this. If he should have like a specific like extra paywall restriction to make sure kids don't access it. But then again, with the whole ordeal with how exactly they handle things, wishy-washy. He should, though, have restrictions, like actual restrictions.
Also around this time, people would start to notice some of their animations and artwork were traced from other creators.
Oh, that's kind of lazy, albeit understandable that sometimes tracing things can be, you know, for practice, I guess it makes sense, but to fully use it as your own is kind of, it's just stupid. Not to mention discrediting and pretty much stopping your creative expertise, I suppose. Like, if we have to be honest, tracing something and pretty much drawing it is, I think, fine by me. It's just when you start pretty much showing it as your own personal artwork or something like that without any massive changes or something like that, it's where things get kind of bad. I mean, yeah, like I said, a difference is the reference isn't exactly an actual character or something like that. It's just poses to pretty much practice and draw. Like I said, tracing in the whole ordeal doesn't seem bad, and it definitely shouldn't be bad. It's when you start trying to copy a certain artist or their art style to the point where it's pretty obvious, it's where it's a problem.
Would start to receive some backlash for these actions, and a lot of creators she had traced would add fuel to the fire, publicly criticizing.
Wait, what? He's tracing and saying he's earning money on, which is a problem, but he's also abusive. He blackmailed me on DA. He turned my OC into porn to intimidate me. What? The blackmail is kind of fucked up, but the whole turning your OC into porn to intimidate someone, what kind of sentence is that? If anything, I'd just be laughing like, oh wow, so he did that? Good job on you. What does that mean for me? What is that, Cornhub? Pretty much, it feels like it, yeah. The whole blackmailing thing, though, is pretty bad.
Them, but the backlash wouldn't result in anything really happening for the most part. They would later apologize, essentially saying they had Parkinson's and it was hard to draw because of that, and some would just brush this off as them not knowing any better because they were a young teen, but that excuse would only...
As the infamous saying goes, it doesn't matter if they're a teen or not, they should still be held accountable for their actions, no matter what. You can only go so far with the teen excuse until you pretty much reach legal age.
Only work if they were a young teen and actually who they said they were. Because it would be discovered not only by some of their earlier uploads they had taken down, but by later allegations against them that Cristalli wasn't in their teens. They were actually 4 years older than what they said they were and was 20. And not only that, they were not a female at all.
Hello.
Wow, really?
And today we're recording a new video to question and answer. That's it? Answer questions. It is? Or no?
And that voice you heard earlier, that was one of the many females he commissioned for the voiceover for videos, who also weren't very happy that they were not being credited for said work because Cristalli wanted to keep up this facade. So an adult man was basically running a YouTube channel pretending to be a teenage girl whilst also creating sexually charged videos they were tracing and advertising straight up NSFW content he was making on a different platform.
Sounds like SS Sniper Wolf, but in male form with more scamming involved and catfishing.
Yeah. It gets worse, by the way. So the person behind Cristalli was David Alejandro Pascual Argueta, born January 7th, 1998.
That's a long-ass name.
And when people started to slowly find out he wasn't who he said he was, he would kind of go back and forth owning it and denying it. He would upload videos with his face talking, and then he would quickly delete them after, and then he would go back to uploading the same content like nothing ever happened. But for a little while longer,
at this point, either just commit to the bit and credit the VAs, I suppose, or just, you know, reveal yourself and stick with that. Like, why you have to go back and forth like a ping pong?
have a platform, down to some still not being aware he was a guy and some simply not caring. But that wouldn't be for long. Actually, not only would he lose his platform, he would also rightfully lose his freedom. Around 2018, a video would be uploaded by Lemmercat, someone that had previously done a collab with Cristalli, going into how he had sent her disturbing messages, NSFW content, and had been requesting inappropriate pictures of her despite her being a minor and him knowing her age. This video is also one of the reasons people found out who he actually was.
Does he also play
Minecraft? You would think this
Minecraft?
would be enough to end Cristalli, but this situation wasn't covered significantly around this time. On top of the fact Cristalli or David had weaponized his audience, harassing and even at one point doxing other creators who dare speak about his interactions with this minor. This meant that the name Cristalli was able to exist with somewhat of a following for a bit longer past 2018 into 2019. And it also meant there would be more victims, with another case where he had apparently been dating a minor that was 8 years younger than him when he was in his 20s, and he did the same thing he did to the other victim. And 2 other creators who were also minors would come out with their stories on David, where he would once again message them inappropriately, request pictures, and send explicit pictures to them. And finally, a lot more people would take notice, and eventually even more.
See, this is one of the reasons why I hate people just going full on horny. It's like, do you really feel that lonely and depressed that you have to just do that? It's like, never mind.
Or creators, with more victims coming out with their stories. With the amount of people that now knew about the situation, a number of reports would be made against David's YouTube channel and to David's local law enforcement, where David in April of 2019 would be taken into custody and have all of his devices seized, and all of this was recorded and covered on his local news.
Wow,
in an article
he made the
regarding this,
news.
it would say that he was accused of receiving photographs of underage girls and making sexualized anime copies of the images to then sell on illegal websites.
Straight
the
to prison
against
for
him
that.
would be trafficking, in which he would only receive 3 years and 5 months in jail.
Yeah,
and apparently
still
due to the length of the sentence
good
in
enough.
Guatemala, he could potentially pay a set fee to avoid going to jail at all.
He doesn't
but he would
have the
still have to
money.
go on the sex offender registry and have to comply with anything the court has set, like house arrest or parole. Now, we don't know if he actually did get this offer to pay or if he did go to jail. There was no other news regarding this, and obviously people were disturbed the sentence was so short. But by now, those 3 years and 5 months would be over, and despite his main channel being removed in 2021, some have theorized he is still on the internet, operating another YouTube account. But there has been no significant evidence to prove these proposed channels may be his.
I mean, according to the whole documentary, it could also be 5 years. It could even be longer, like, they say 3 years, but the final decision hasn't been, made or said. So in the end, we got 3 years and some months, but it could be longer, if not a larger amount, especially if they had the whole evidence that they got from his computer. Like, that's pretty much the final nail in the coffin. Uncertainty is basically the answer, albeit the fact that he's still, revealed to the public and the whole police force. Uncertainty is rather disappointing because you don't know if he's truly gone or if he's yet to be sentenced.
Make sure to check out Jormy49's video on this. A lot of the information here was found through his video, and he also goes into way more depth about the deplorable things this person has done.
What is the charge?
Conclusion.
A succulent child.
We've reached the conclusion. In conclusion, just the worst people. And they still have tons of audience viewers for some reason. Yikes. Like, genuinely.
Is me old. Oh, that's a nice headlock, sir.
So those were some YouTube animators who are infamously regarded in the community. Obviously some worse than others, and some that have left a stain on the history of YouTube animation for one reason or another, and unfortunately there were a lot more I could.
His viewers might be AI. You're giving AI too much credit. Unfortunately, they are in fact dumb kids, and they are in the thousands, if not millions, so unlikely, but still. Like, definitely there are gonna be fake viewers, not denying that. It's just definitely the smaller margin in comparison to what you might be thinking.
Could have mentioned, but YouTube anime.
Also, come to think of it, can't you, like, buy views as well? viewers can be bought as well, as far as I remember. Like, quite literally to boost your, what was it, your channel. So technically speaking, he could be investing in people that subscribe to him to increase his viewers. Yeah, I know. But again, the whole ordeal is, it depends. Plus, this video is like, what, a day ago? But the content creator is like several years ago, so not exactly something on the equivalent of using something like Nesna. Definitely had to, like, at the very least, fork off some cash to buy views, but chances are it might cost him in the long run. It might fall off, give or take certain stuff into consideration.
Animation nowadays is doing fine. You have some genuinely impressive and entertaining creators on the platform, and instances like this are rare and obviously not unique to animation, although there are quite a lot. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to talk about today. Once again,
like, even though there are, like, not that many in comparison to many, if not all artists, there are still a select few.
And thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check it out. It's free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. You can find the
I love those two. Who do you love?
Links below and in the pinned comments to grab your bonus pack, including multiple...
Don't just say I love those two, given the fact that we're talking about the most degenerate YouTube animators. Odd Ones Out and Jaden Animations? Yeah, they're... I know about Jaden more than Odd Ones Out, but... I mean, technically speaking, Jaden's style is kind of wild, very lively.
Premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagles of Valor vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium. Available on PC and consoles for new and returning players who haven't played for at least 6 months. And don't forget, you can even play it on the go with the new mobile version of the game. But yeah, that's all I had to say.
There's a mobile version for Warhammer?
Bye-bye.
That's interesting. I had no idea that was a thing. Well, that was something. I feel dead inside. Like, more dead than I thought I would be.